This Monero Matteo video is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Safely store, send, receive, and trade your Monero on Cake Wallet on Android and iOS. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying not to be too prideful today. I'm not trying to be in any way I told you so kind of guy. But look, we told you so. We've been talking about this since day one. And my schadenfreude for the Bitcoin bros is kind of kicking in, I got to say. But they still don't get it. They still don't seem to get it. Bitcoin is up 8% or something like that on the day, from 60,000 to 63,000. And Monero is continuing a relentless search. I think it's up roughly about the same on the day. The longs are surging against the shorts. But we don't know. The empire may strike back at some point. But it seems like people are waking up. And I don't know if this long activity is as a result of everything that's going on in the news in regards to unrealized capital gains. Maybe people are starting to connect some dots. I don't know if it's as a result of Kevin Watt's videos and maybe my video regarding the price manipulation. Maybe they sense something is getting out there in regards to the truth of this stuff. And so maybe people are looking to cover and hedge against that reality, that people are going to wake up to the fact that there could be price manipulation going on. It could be that a lot of people are loaning out Monero that they don't have, shorting Monero, borrowing it from whoever in order to sell it and buy it back later. Who knows? Who knows what the deal is? But we do know that Monero is on the way up. And guys, with everything going on, Monero is going to go super, hyper, mega nuclear. Okay? Like, looking at everything going on in the news. And again, like, go back to our first video. We've talked about unrealized capital gains. I'll be linking the videos like all over the place, just all the times that we've talked about this. And it looks like it's now mainstream. And it looks like the perspective of the public is changing to understand that the people in charge want everything that you've got. They want to charge everything that you got, and they want to take it, okay? Like, we're heading into a socialist, communist, global totalitarian, technocratic dictatorship, okay? Like, that is the situation here. And I don't see much pushback against this. It looks like they're overruling all the protests, all of the pushback that they're getting, and they're carrying forward with their plan for everyone to have a digital ID, for the rollout of their central bank digital currencies, for them to tax everything which is a commodity, which is not part of their program, to pull up the economic ladders so that economic mobility is going to be very much a thing of the past. We're going into a neo-feudal technocratic society. And this is why we have been saying Monero and the Freedom Coin Covenant is like the digital ark, right? It is like an ark that you could save your assets from in regards to the onslaught of what's to come our way. Now, of course, we're not saying to do anything illegal. We just think that these are interesting speculative positions. It's something which could become popular among some people, and so we think that the price is going to do quite well. We're not saying to evade tax law. We're not saying to break any kind of laws here, but these things have never looked more attractive, okay? I mean, seriously, if you haven't watched the 50 or so videos that we've made, every single video that we've made on this subject is still, like, completely relevant, okay? The bullish case for Monero, the bullish case for the Freedom Coin Covenant, Xano, Darrow, Pirate Chain, etc., it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You could even get into Turtle Coin, okay? I think there's going to be a flood of capital which makes its way into, like, the trade ogre sector, like the privacy sector. And in my opinion, it doesn't even matter what coin that you're in. Now, I'm not saying that you should get into these random coins. I'm not saying you should get into any coin. None of this is financial advice. But the entire space is just going to go hypernuclear, okay? Because the entire space is $10 billion in value. $10 billion, okay? And you've got, okay, $2.5 trillion heading upwards towards 3 now in these public blockchain cryptocurrencies. Like, there's going to be an antediluvian flood that goes from there into the Freedom Coin sector. And then you have to consider everybody who owns equities, who are now concerned about wealth confiscation. Okay, because if they start to really move towards this, the billionaires are not going to want to hold on to these stocks. They're going to lock in their gains and they're going to sell, which is going to entice other selling. And I very much think, especially with everything that we've been seeing in regards to tax haven crackdowns with the Panama Papers, the Pandora Papers, more scrutiny from the EU as to how they could track people's assets in a data registry, an asset registry. The rich are going to look for ever more ways to hide their wealth, okay? And the word is getting out about Monero. The word is getting out about our precious privacy coins. And again, these things are just going to go freaking nuclear. Okay, we're so early. We're so ahead of the curve, guys. I've been keeping you guys ahead of the curve since day one. None of what we're about to go through today is a surprise to you, okay? We've been on top of this. So just know that as a fact. And I know this is a little bit of a longer opening, but things are starting to get heated. I think that things are really starting to heat up for the positions that we're in. So firstly, I want to thank some people first. I want to thank my patrons, Josh, Stuart, Ken, Heinrich. You're a Swedish dude, I think. Finland? I don't know. Ronan and Lutz. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you, Beard Bandwidth. You had commented on a video that we did yesterday, and you're like, bro, why don't you put your QR codes for your Monero and Bitcoin addresses in here, make it easier for people to donate to you. Because apparently it's hard to copy and paste the address from the description. And so I did that, and it looks like we've been getting little tips. So I appreciate that, guys. I appreciate it. You know, I got $1, I got a couple bucks, anything, man. I mean, that lightens my day, and that encourages me to continue to do what I do. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Lets me know that I'm providing value to you guys, which is why I'm here. So that said, let's go ahead and get into the content. Again, I know this is a little bit longer of an opening, but I just wanted that opening salvo to just kind of like embolden you and get you excited about what's to come, right? So here we go. This is going to be about unrealized capital gains taxes because everybody's freaking out right now. Who's not freaking out? We aren't, because we've seen this coming. So check this out. This is Janet Yellen, who, by the way, was the former Fed head. She used to be the Fed chairwoman, and now she is the head of the U.S. Treasury. So again, more incestuous stuff going on there. The Treasury and the Fed, not too much of a difference. And if you look over in Italy, Mario Draghi, he used to be the head of the European Central Bank. Now he's the president of Italy. So the banksters have taken over the world. This is quite obvious now. And Janet Yellen wants unrealized capital gains taxes. So let's go ahead and listen to Miss Croc here, Miss Granny, who should be in a kitchen baking cookies somewhere for her grandkids, but instead she wants your money, bruh. Let's listen.
Well, I think what's under consideration is a proposal that Senator Wyden and the Senate Finance Committee have.
And just one comment. You remember, Senator Wyden, he was the hero on the hill for the crypto bros back in the day, right? Wyden, he wants to protect the crypto bros from this very vague language in this bill, which is going to make miners and node operators and exchanges and everybody become a broker. And we talked about the implications of that past videos, but Wyden came to the rescue. And so a lot of the crypto bros backed Wyden. What they didn't know was that Wyden was behind the push for unrealized capital gains tax. He was like the initial guy going back to like 2019. And so now his proposal is getting taken more seriously by Biden and Yellen, and as we're about to get to, Pelosi as well. So just listen to Yellen here.
Senate Finance Committee have been looking at that would impose a tax on unrealized capital gains on liquid assets held by extremely wealthy individuals, billionaires. I wouldn't call that a wealth tax, but it would help get at capital gains, which are an extraordinarily large part of the incomes of the wealthiest individuals. And
so a couple of things I want to point out here. Yes, it is a wealth tax, by the way, because think about it, right? So you've got, let's just make it easy with Bitcoin. So you got Bitcoin, you bought it at $10,000. It goes up to $50,000, okay? So that's a $40,000 gain. You have not sold your Bitcoin. As of now, it is an unrealized gain. Okay, so let's say that half of that gain was due to inflation. Okay, we're just throwing out numbers now. Inflation's getting bad, and Bitcoin is indexing a lot of inflation. So if half of that was due to inflation, then your real gain was roughly 20 or, oh man, we're going to make this difficult to math, aren't we? I was not ready for this. Anyways, a lot of the gain is from inflation. It's nominal gain. It's not a real gain, right? So if your Bitcoin is $50,000 and it indexes inflation, which let's just say, to make it easy, is 100%, right? And so your Bitcoin then goes to $100,000. Well, that means you have a nominal gain of $50,000, but your real gain is zero because your Bitcoin can still only buy the same amount of stuff as it could a year ago. So the real gain is zero, the nominal gain is 100%, which means if they pass this unrealized capital gains tax on whoever had this gain, well, they're going to have to pay, whatever the capital gains tax rate that they have to pay is, which I think is roughly, if Biden gets his way, 40%, because they want to move it up to 39%, something like that. And it's going to be income, as she says, if there's going to be a mark-to-market system, because you're not going to have long-term capital gains anymore in regards to this stuff. You're going to have to have it recognized as income, which is a tax hike in and of itself, because you get favorable tax rates if you hold crypto or stocks longer than a year. And if you hold it for less than a year, then it's just taxed as ordinary income. And depending on what your income is, that could be bad. I mean, if you're in the top 1%, I mean, your income tax is already like upwards of 40%. So that's going to be a big hit. And so people are going to want to lock in their long-term capital gains, and they're probably just going to sell. But yeah, that's total wealth confiscation, because they're going to be taxing your real purchasing power there. I mean, they're taxing the nominal gain, which wasn't a real gain, but your real wealth is going to go down as a result of that. Does that make sense? So that's worthy to note. And again, it's not income, okay? You holding on to an asset is not you providing goods and services to anyone for money coming in. It's completely changing the definition of what income is. So I just want to note that.
And right now, escape taxation until they're realized, and often they're unrealized, and at death benefit from so-called step-up of basis. So it's not a wealth tax, but a tax on unrealized capital gains of exceptionally wealthy individuals.
So, what's interesting is that this sounds totally austere. This sounds totally authoritarian. It's because it is. But the fact that they have this old lady who's out here telling you that this is coming, and she sounds so innocent and she couldn't hurt a fly, right? She wants to literally set up a tax system which is going to require them to monitor your assets, which is going to make it so that your real wealth is being confiscated by the government, which is making it so they could do things which we're about to get to, which are, this opens Pandora's box if they pass this, and your assets will not be safe, right? I mean, this could make it so that if you own a home and your taxes are going up on your home because of property tax, number one, but two, because of unrealized capital gains taxes, because you have home appreciation, because BlackRock's in the neighborhood buying every home left and right, well, you're going to have to pay tax on that. Where are you going to get the cash? You may have to sell your home in order to pay that tax. Now, they're saying right now that this is just going to be liquid assets, but who knows what they consider liquid assets. And I've heard some interesting comments. Well, they're going to tokenize homes. They're going to tokenize everything in the Internet of Things, and so everything's going to be liquid. I don't know. I don't know what the deal with that is going to be. But nevertheless, I want to point out to the Bitcoin bros that Bitcoin is a liquid asset. And I asked Mark Moss about this yesterday. I'm like, Mark, what do you think about this? And he didn't respond. He responded to my first comment kind of snarkily because he didn't get what I was trying to say. But yeah, your Bitcoin's going to be taxed to oblivion. And by the way, it's going to suffer, massive drawbacks as a result, because a lot of billionaires have made their money on Bitcoin. And so they're going to have to sell. And they don't want to have to pay these short-term capital gains tax rates, i.e. the income tax. So they're going to sell and lock in the long-term capital gain tax rate instead. Or they're just going to atomically swap into Monero if they have their Bitcoin off a KYC exchange. But nevertheless, we'll talk about that stuff here in a little bit. But that is what everybody is now freaking out about. Everybody sees that unrealized capital gains tax rates are on the table. And just a couple months ago, when we were talking about this, nobody was talking about it. So, other than Nomad Capitalist, he was ahead of the curve too. Really smart guy over there. But check this out. Matt, you had sent me this article today. Pelosi confirms wealth tax on billionaires, unrealized capital gains is on the way. And look, it's not going to stay to the billionaires. As noted down here by Mish Shedlock, and by the way, we're on zerohedge.com. And yeah, I know my computer is slow. I need a new one. But look, hang on to your wallets. This is how the original income tax was shackled to us. The original tax in 1913 applied only to the super wealthy and topped out at 7%. The average American would never be taxed. Well, we know how that worked out. Correct. Yep. So also note this. This is a good point. You could have an unrealized capital gains tax levied on you if you made a lot of money in Bitcoin up to December 31st, right, of the particular year you held that asset in. And then January 1st, maybe boom, it goes down 50% or something like that. Again, these are volatile assets. Things are crazy. And so you just paid all that money to the government because of that gain that you had in that year. And then that gain goes away, but you still owe that money for the unrealized gain that you had because they consider that income, which it's not, but they're going to change the definition. So he says, also recall the big gains on December 31st, 1999. Those would have been big losses by the first months into next year. But a tax would have been assessed for 1999. Exactly. So if they pass this, it's going to become a regular clockwork type deal where assets are just liquidated going into the end of the year, right? Because everyone's going to be worried about having to pay an unrealized capital gains tax on that which may not continue to appreciate or retain its value into the next year. So, yeah, this is coming. And yeah, Kristen Sinema is perfectly okay with this. Biden's okay with this. A lot of the Democrats are, like Elizabeth Warren is definitely okay with this. And here we go. Nancy Pelosi is now coming out saying we will probably have a wealth tax. So, yep. Ron Wyden, he's on board as well. Biden's cool with it. Yeah, the idea for which President Biden recently expressed support after excluding it from his campaign plans. Yeah, so he's lying again. It's like George W. Bush, or not, George H.W. Bush. Read my lips, no new taxes, and then boom, the tax man's at your door. The spokeswoman for Miss Sinema said Friday she was working with Senator Elizabeth Warren. Well, that's not comforting. Who has pushed for an annual tax on the wealthiest Americans' assets. And look, if we go into hyperinflation, everyone's going to be a quote-unquote wealthy American because the dollar's going to be worthless. But if they keep those income levels the same, the brackets the same, oh, man. Oh, that's going to be beautiful. Because, look, they're not going to update the tax brackets as it is. And I was talking to my buddy Jesse about this because I'm not going to talk about his particular situation, but business owners are worried about this because if you are providing goods and services and you're upping the prices on those goods and services to index inflation, okay, those tax brackets aren't changing. Like you're going to be going into higher and higher tax brackets, which means you're going to have to pay more and more tax when in reality, your real wealth is staying the same. It's just indexing inflation, but the government's going to take more and more from you. Okay, and the same thing's going to happen with this unrealized capital gains tax. People are going to be liquidated, ladies and gentlemen. Their real wealth is going to be sucked out of them by the government, and you can expect this to happen because the government's running out of money. They can't totally rely on the Federal Reserve to finance all of these deficits because inflation's starting to get out of control. And so they're going to have to get more wealth from the population. And in a way, this is going to allow for, a certain partial deflationary element to all of this because a lot of people are going to sell their crypto. A lot of people are going to sell their stocks to go into the dollar, which is going to strengthen the dollar, which it's been weak recently because, again, the Federal Reserve printing all this money to try to support everything, inflation, etc. And the bond market would be largely unperturbed because there aren't that many gains in the bond market. You're not going to see too much of a sell-off there. In fact, you could see a lot of money move into the bond market that the Fed doesn't have to print. So that is something to consider. And also to consider, and we talked about this in a previous unrealized capital gains tax video, but global wealth tax. I believe that the, what's that, BIS, something like this? So, anyways, we talked about this in another video, but uh, the global bank, I forgot what it's called, the World Bank or something like that. Yes, the World Bank. They have been talking about a global wealth tax. And I'll have you go back to a video we just made a couple days ago where we were talking about how they ratified the global minimum tax. So that camel has its nose under the tent. If they pass this, that camel will have its nose under the tent. So, guys, wealth confiscation is coming. You need to get your assets off the system. If you're in public blockchains, your assets are not off the system. They can see it and they're going to come for it. So, this is the Wall Street Journal. A new annual tax on billionaires' unrealized capital gains is likely to be included to help pay for the vast social policy and climate package. Okay, so go watch our MasterCard Carbon Card video. We talked about this. We said that they're going to make insane tax initiatives and they're going to make insane other central bank sponsored initiatives to make it so that they can fund this war effort, quote unquote, against climate change, right? This has been dripped into the population psychology for many years now. And this is the next thing coming. This is the next, quote unquote, crisis, which is going to justify central bank money printing going to a zillion, going to like 100, right? And then it's going to justify new tax policy initiatives. As we just talked about the income tax, that was to help support the war effort. And so this unrealized capital gains tax may be justified, quote unquote, to save the world from climate change, because what can't you pass? What can't you do in order to save the world, right? What sacrifice can't be made? So they're going to do crazy things again in the name of climate change in order to save the world, guys. I mean, what stakes could be higher, right? Not to mention China's over there just, polluting the crap out of everything. They're not going to be part of this new, Paris Climate Accord pollution containment initiative. But, it's not like they're on Earth, right? They're not part of the initiative. But look, I don't even want to go into all that. We go into that deep in the climate video that we talked about in regards to MasterCard, which, by the way, is working with global central banks and is rolling out their own carbon card, which is going to limit your consumption based on your carbon footprint. And so we see that whole thing coming down the line. I mean, guys, the bullish case for these private cryptos is stupid. It's goofy. People are going to figure this out. But nevertheless, Nancy Pelosi's on the scene. They're saying that it's likely it's going to be included. And if it's not, this has now been introduced into the psychology of the population, which means that people are expecting this to come now. Like, people have been warmed up to this idea. And so at some point, this is going to happen. It's just maybe they don't make their move right now. Maybe it's a trial balloon, but they want this to happen. Similar to the IRS $600 thing. They rolled that back a little bit, but maybe we're just doing a trial balloon to see how the population reacted and how they could sell it to the population in the future in order to make it sniggle in there and have it be justified, right? So let's go to Mr. Well here. He's a key follow on Twitter. The fact Janet Yellen is even considering an unrealized capital gains tax perfectly illustrates the monstrous economic crisis we're in. They are willing to annihilate all investors' sentiment in order to raise money to fund their reckless spending spree. Well, apparently not. Because Bitcoin is up 5.5% on the day. People are unperturbed. People don't care. And Ethereum as well, totally tracked and traced. All of these are totally tracked and traced. I can't believe it. It's crazy. But people will learn. People figure it out. We're just early, guys. We're just very, very early. So, yeah, this Coper, he's like, did you buy Bitcoin? Yeah, why would you buy Bitcoin in the face of this? Why? I don't understand. Like, I guess people still don't know that it's totally tracked and traced. I guess they don't. This is why we have the channel. This is why we're trying to get the word out. But yeah, we're in an economic crisis. And as the population gets ever more desperate, as the resentment against the billionaire class becomes ever more palpable, as people look at all the new minted crypto millionaires and billionaires and say, hey, that shouldn't be allowed. That's not fair. They just got in on a ride early. We're over here suffering. They're going to go after the crypto bros. They're going to be a scapegoat. I promise you this is coming. And this could be one way that they get that money, which is just sitting there for everyone to see on the blockchains. $2.5 trillion just sitting there for them to see and for them to presumably take. And so this could be one way to get some of that wealth to fund this initiative, and also could be a surgical strike against crypto as a whole. It deters people from getting into the space because a lot of people are getting into the space for the gains. And if you got to do all this crazy overhead, well, that's going to deter people. And if they roll out the central bank digital currency, that may look more attractive to people. As hard as it is for people like us to believe, that could be the case. So just wanted to point that out as well. How far are we through this? 24 minutes. Good. If the government was really about taxing the ultra rich as they promised, why are they so eager to trace all bank transactions over $600? And you guys remember we watched that clip of Janet Yellen, and she was talking to some lady from CBS, and the lady was like, "Hey, so what's with this initiative to track these bank accounts of these Americans? People are worried about this." And she says, "Oh, well, as you know, we have a tax gap of $7 trillion," and like she's shaking because like she's this, fragile, innocent old woman, right? And we have to make sure that we continue to be funded. And there's a lot of people cheating on their taxes. Isn't that so bad, granddaughter? Don't we just want to stop that? You want a cookie? Right. So the lady then asked, so you're going after the billionaires. You're going after the ultra rich to cover this quote unquote $7 trillion tax gap. Why are you wanting to monitor bank accounts of $600? What's that all about? This doesn't make much sense. And then she reverted back to just blaming the billionaires. So you see what's happening. They have their scapegoat. They're going to make the population hate that scapegoat. They're going to employ distinct measures against that scapegoated group, which always happens in democracy. And then those measures are going to be used against other people who want to be then antagonistic towards the state, which obviously has become tyrannical. And then everyone's going to be treated as that scapegoat category, right? We've talked about that before. But we all know how this ends, according to Mr. Whale. The elites will lobby the politicians, and as always, the taxes will only rise for the poor and the middle class, right? Probably. Or they'll just buy Monero. The elites will buy Monero. Maybe they're the only ones who are on top of this. I bet you Nancy Pelosi is buying Monero right now. This is intentional. This is Jonathan Ozovec. Wealth doesn't accumulate for the non-elites, and the gate formally closes on socioeconomic advancement. So, yeah, they're going to kill economic mobility. This is what we saw in 2020 when they shut down non-essential quote-unquote businesses. And companies like Amazon, Apple, Target, Walmart, etc. were able to stay open and increase market share because the little mom and pop shops, they couldn't afford like all these stupid plexiglass panels and these mask mandates and the new regulations and the lockdowns, right? Which perturb people from going out because they were scared to death and they wanted to stay home, which means, work at home. Telecom services went through the roof. Amazon went through the roof because a lot of stuff was delivered straight to people's homes. Walmart, of course, was starting to do the same thing. And so it was like a power consolidation move on the behalf of big technology companies and big multinational conglomerates because they're able to wipe out the non-essential quote-unquote businesses and the businesses that just couldn't survive to stay open. So that was a total wholesale destruction of socioeconomic advancement, economic mobility, and competition to those who are consolidating ever more power in this world. And I assume that this is another push for that in some way. So check this out. This is from Zero Hedge. The wealthiest households now own around $1 trillion in unrealized equity capital gains. So again, more money just sitting there. This equates to 3% of total U.S. equity market cap and roughly 30% of average monthly S&P 500 trading volume. This is from Goldman Sachs. So yeah, the equities are going to take a hit. If this happens, the equities are definitely going to take a hit. But maybe not. Where else are you going to go? Where else are you going to get yield? You're not going to get yield from the bond market. Just about every bond in the world is yielding negative in real terms. So you're going to have to keep your money in there because you're not going to hold it in cash because the dollar is being just completely decimated by the $120 billion of QE being done every month by the Fed. So just where are you going to go? You're going to have to stay in there, and they're going to take your money. Where else are you going to go, right? Well, we know where to go. We know where to go. We've been talking about it since day one. The Freedom Coin Covenant. So this is Jordan Schnastel. Taxing unrealized gains is only minimally about taxation itself. That's not the bigger objective. Taxing unrealized gains grants the government the ability to monitor your each and every move. Yes. So as we talked about before, there's going to be an asset registry which has to come about as a result of this, because uh, you're going to have unrealized gains on your car. You're going to have unrealized gains on other assets that you may own, and so it could be that the government comes out with something like the EU is working on. The EU is working on, and we talked about this in another video. I'll link it if I've got enough space left. I can only link 5 videos, but we talked about that in our financial expansion video. Really key video. You got to check that out. But the EU is working on making an asset registry system which incorporates medium to large size assets that the everyday Joe owns into a registry to adequately account for the property owned by everybody. And people have come out and said, whoa, this is like totally a precursor to communism. Like, what's going to happen here? This looks dangerous. And nobody's focusing on this much at all because of all the bug stuff and the digital passport stuff and all the other chaos that's going on. I mean, we're at information overload. I can barely keep up myself. But look, that's what they're doing. I mean, this could be a precursor to that in Europe, and maybe the unrealized capital gains tax here in the United States could be a precursor to that here in the States. So, again, this could be something which is used for more financial surveillance, which we're already seeing a push for all over the world. And so, again, that is bullish Monero and bullish other assets that have stealth addresses and transactions that can't be easily seen by third parties like these governments, etc. So that is something to note there. This is from The Wolf of All Streets. Proposing a tax on unrealized capital gains is insane. Yep. Imagine paying taxes on something you haven't sold just to see it go down afterwards. Yep. I assume that means we can write off unrealized losses, right? Right? Nope. Nope. So if you don't know tax law, basically you can only write off a total of $3,000 in unrealized capital losses as an individual. Now, that's not going to be the same deal for your gains. And even then, you could have unrealized capital gains, but you can only write off those gains to the extent that you have losses, right? So we'll see if you can write off unrealized losses. That'd be nice. But with everything going up in quote unquote value as a result of inflation, how many losses are you going to have? I mean, are you buying gold and silver? Because that's the only thing losing right now for the most part. Everything else is just going hyper mega nuclear because of the central bank money printing. So what unrealized losses are you talking about? What is going down? Are you like, how can you lose in this market? After 12 years of just everything going up, what are you buying, bro? What are you missing out on? Just buy the S&P and ride. Buy Bitcoin and ride. Who has unrealized losses right now? They're just going to be taxing your gains. Maybe they'll include that. Maybe not. I mean, are they going to be that nice? Maybe they can include that to appease the population and think, oh, well, at least I can get some losses. But again, what are you going to be losing on exactly? I mean, if you're losing in this market, bro, I don't even know what to tell you. What happens? This is Jack Murphy. What happens when everyone sells stock to pay for the unrealized gains they have to pay taxes on? Yep. Exactly. Liquidations, especially in the first year, right? Because people are going to they're going to want to lock in those long-term capital gains before this hits, because you get favorable rates for the long-term capital gains as a result of holding it for longer than a year. And that's going to change if they have unrealized capital gains tax, because then it's going to be annual, which means it's going to be treated as income, which has bigger tax implications. So, yeah, you're going to see mega liquidations in the first year. And people are going to try to front run that, which means it could just be a panic selling. Who knows? But then maybe that's the pretext for the Federal Reserve to come in and buy stocks themselves. But then that's going to be inflationary. So I don't know how it's going to work out. We'll see what happens. This is Zhu Su. Who's he? He's kind of a famous guy, isn't he? Yeah, he's a crypto investor. Okay. I think if governments actually pass unrealized capital gains tax while exempting private equity and real estate, then it is time to reread French Revolution history. Maybe. What does that mean? Does that mean buy Monero? I mean, you can get after him if you want to. I mean, I'm not recommending that. Don't break the law. But I think you're just coping at that point. Bitcoin, bro. Tax unrealized capital gains. Unrealized capital gains before hyperinflation. And you can seize almost any asset in the world. And this is by our buddy Trace Evader. He's just got the most key tweets, honestly. He's one of the few people that I've got like the bell rung for, just so I can see his tweets whenever they pop up, because they're always really good. But this is a good point, because if they make it so that you're past a certain income level or you're past a certain asset ownership level and hyperinflation starts to really happen, then everyone's going to be included in all of this regulation. Like it could be that the unrealized capital gains tax regulations don't work their way down from the billionaires to everybody on the bottom, but maybe everybody on the bottom, because of hyperinflation, moves their way up to, the status of being billionaires, quote unquote, because the dollar is then worthless. But then everybody is exposed to the implications of these taxes. But then, where's civilization at that point? At that point, I don't know what the deal is. Who knows what would happen if we got to hyperinflation, especially in this environment. I don't even want to think about it. It'd be unlike anything the world's ever seen. But building a reputation online, and again, this goes to our Pandora's box opening. This just reemphasizes how crazy things could get, because when governments pass laws, we saw this with the crypto laws that everybody's freaking out about a couple months ago, which were again sponsored by Janet Yellen. The language was so vague that almost anyone could be included into this stuff, which means that the government could selectively pursue political dissidents and people that they don't like in order to wage lawfare on them. The more ambiguous the law, the more encompassing a law could be for anyone, the more it could be turned into a weapon against the public. And so this could be something like that, as argued by Trace Evader. So building a reputation online through speech has value that is often unrealized. A social media account is an asset. Unrealized capital gains tax will become a tax on speech. Maybe. That's a stretch. He's really stretching the philosophical boundaries of what could be argued as to what could be implicated as a result of this tax. But that could be a thing. Who knows? I don't even know why they need to do that. They could just ban you. Like that's what Jack Dorsey does. And, it looks like enough Bitcoin mining is being consolidated here in the United States where they're going to be able to just blacklist people's Bitcoin accounts with OFAC. And we've talked about that in different videos. Check out our American Bitcoin Rush video. We go into some detail on that. And I've made so many videos recently, I can't even. The Bitcoin censorship resistant video. Go check those out. We talk in depth about that. That's a real risk. And it looks like that's what they're trying to do. But that's speculation. So this is just my thoughts on all of this. This ties into a number of things regarding this, but I just want to read this for you just so that you can get some unique takes on this, because there are a lot of things that could be playing into this initiative. So check this out. Unrealized capital gains could have a similar effect to quantitative easing tapering without needing to actually raise rates and threaten the bond market. Interest rates will stay level, not many gains in bonds. Big equity and crypto investors will sell to buy the dollar to tame inflation. Right, we kind of went over that a little bit earlier. They realize inflation is becoming an issue. This could be a way to cause some measured deflation without having the Fed commit to a policy mistake and get the blame. And remember, the Fed is the institution that's really in control. It's not the government, it's the Fed. And recall when Jerome Powell was on Capitol Hill and somebody had asked him about Bitcoin regulation. They're like, hey, do you think crypto regulation could happen in the United States similar to what's going on in China? And Jay Powell said, we don't plan on imposing any regulations at this time like that. It's not his business to do that. That's Congress. But you see, that's the psychology in Washington, is that the central banks are in control, because they are. The Fed is the most powerful institution on the planet Earth. If Jerome Powell spills coffee on his shirt one day and maybe finds his wife in bed with Hunter Biden or something like this, right? He could go in and just tell the world, hey, you know what? We're just going to raise interest rates 15, 20%. How about that? Boom. Crashes the bond market, crashes the stock market, crashes the real estate market. Global depression instantaneously. That's how powerful Jerome Powell is. Okay? So Janet Yellen, being a former head of the Federal Reserve, she could be just a lackey for the Fed working in the government, and maybe she wants to enact this unrealized capital gains tax and all the implications of it to benefit the Fed and to, kind of direct more animosity for what's coming at the government instead of the Fed, and make the Fed look like the savior because of everything that's gone on. That's like a psychological trend which has been going back since 2008 when Ben Bernanke was on like the cover of Time. Do you guys remember that? The savior of Earth, Ben Bernanke, the money printer, right? So this could be something, just speculation again, but it's just something to think about. Also note the government, due to the inflation issue, will need to finance the deficit by not relying totally on the Fed. Otherwise, they get more inflation. Plus, they get political points for going after their constituents' favorite scapegoat, the rich billionaire class. Right. Am I recording? Yes, okay. Also to consider, to adequately calculate such a tax and ensure compliance, there will need to be more financial surveillance. Similar to what the EU is working on, there could be an asset registry to monitor a person's asset values. However, they do say liquid assets are only on the table, though. Now, a house isn't a liquid asset. Some other things could be argued to not be liquid assets. If you're a billionaire who owns yachts, maybe the yacht isn't a liquid asset. And some of the other things that billionaires own, which is responsible for a lot of their wealth, isn't a liquid asset. So again, maybe it could be the Wall Street bet bros and the crypto bros who are in trouble as a result of this. And then lastly, this could be a way to do a surgical strike on crypto. $2.5 trillion is sitting there on public blockchains for all to see, much of it untaxed. Not to mention, they could be close to the CBDC rollout and thereby make the competitive space look less attractive. Just some thoughts. This could all be a trial balloon to see the public reaction. No, for sure, though. They want your money. And as they get ever more indebted and desperate, they'll figure out ways to get it. Reminder, private crypto space, about $10 billion in value. I think this is just absurd. It's going to go hyper mega nuclear. I think that's in the cards. I think that's coming. So, now the important thing, of course, is to make parallel economic systems. Because, look, what's it going to benefit you to be in these private cryptos if you don't have people to transact these private cryptos with for real goods and services? Because then you're just going to have to liquidate those private cryptos to go into cash and then buy whatever you feel like you need to. And then getting into cash, of course, is going to get you on the grid. So that's why we really need to build these economic systems. And I'm trying to work on making videos to explain how it is people could integrate Monero into their businesses and to accept Monero payments for goods and services online or otherwise. And I've looked at some interesting information in regards to this. So we'll be coming out with more on that. But just as a reminder, guys, whenever you go to a small mom and pop shop, whenever you go to a store, just ask them, do you accept Monero? Just ask them. Like, we desperately need people to start accepting this stuff, and we need to build this parallel economic system, right? So that's something to consider. So this guy says, PSC, Patriot Singles, this will cause bigger money market positions to back up gains. This means people are forced to stay in fiat money positions. This is pure market manipulation to keep the dollar alive. Maybe. I thought that was an interesting point. I've got a couple more points for you guys here. We've been through a lot in regards to this. Yeah, they're talking about this being unlawful seizure of personal property. But look, they already have civil asset forfeiture. That's been a thing for a long time. That's something that libertarians have fought about for a long time. It's completely lawless seizure of property. They still do it. It's still a thing. Inflation is an unlawful seizure of personal property. Taxation, if you're like a hardcore libertarian, you could say is theft and a unlawful seizure of personal property, at least unlawful in regards to natural law. But who cares if it's unlawful? We live in a lawless world, and we've talked about this before. The spirit of the law is dead. Western Christian civilization is dying, which means people don't have that internal moral constraint because there's no belief. Well, we'll talk about this. We've talked about that before. I talked about that with the patrons in that one video. If you really want to get the download on that philosophy, go check that out. Become a patron, I would suggest. So they are going to pump up your assets by debasing the currency and then tax your unrealized gains. WTF. Bitcoin bro having a realization moment. He's coming to the light. He's starting to understand. But he hasn't changed his name to 37 Narrows yet. But, maybe it's coming. Maybe it's coming. And then Pompliano, the Bitcoper de jure, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. So there are no unrealized gains. Yep, Cope. Totally wants to ignore just how catastrophic this would be for Bitcoin. It'd be totally catastrophic. And again, I want to see if I can find this article for you guys, just so you can understand this is not going to be limited to the United States. World Bank wealth tax. Because I think that this is going to be a thing. Yeah, so here we go. The global bank. This is written earlier this year. A wealth tax to address 5 global disruptions. Okay. So they're talking about wealth taxes. If there's ever a time that wealth taxes could help, it may be now. Okay, so just understand this, guys. Understand the environment that we're in. And one last thing to comment on, the shorts are getting crushed for Monero. The longs are surging on the day. Maybe people are figuring this stuff out, but look, when we did our Monero manipulation video just a few days ago, there were twice as many shorts as there were longs. And with Kevin Watt coming out with his hard-hitting video, and we're going to be doing a conversation soon. Keep a lookout for that. We're going to be discussing all the developments regarding this. But, the longs have just been surging, dude. This is a 30-day chart. Look at this. Look at this right here. So, at this moment, this was like the day, I think, that we did our price manipulation video. We were seeing the surge right here in the shorts. Longs not doing much, and we were comparing that to every other crypto here, where longs were just way outpacing the shorts, except for Monero. Is really unique in being an outlier. Now look at this. The shorts are crashing. The longs are surging. So I'm not sure if this is in response to the unrealized capital gains news. I'm not sure if this is in response to what we've been talking about here and the fact that more people in the Monero community are waking up to some chicanery which is going on behind the scenes. But that is going on, dude. So, yeah, the price could be about to go nuclear. And with everything going on, with the Great Awakening, that, yes, the government's going to be doing some pretty serious wealth confiscation going into the future. More people are going to wake up to this. And this could be a response to that. Maybe people are getting ahead of the curve like we are. So, that's all for this video. Ladies and gentlemen. Have your assets off the system. Have it off the system. Make it not exist, all right? And this is why I also like gold. This is why I like silver, physical, right? And if you want leverage, maybe go with the miners. I don't know. But look, the wealth confiscation is going to get serious. It's going to get worse on a global basis, right? As the debt crisis really starts to kick in, as we really start to have to pay the bill for the lockdowns, which have been happening for the last couple of years, which has just destroyed economic activity and has made our debt crisis that much worse. Populations are going to get more desperate. The governments are thereby going to get more desperate to kick this can one more inch down the road, one more inch down the road, one more inch down the road, which means more money from you going to other people. And that continues until you run out of other people's money, as Margaret Thatcher said. So you want to escape this. You want to escape this. And I'm not saying to do anything illegal here. I'm just saying I think the Freedom Coin Covenant, I think Monero and Co. are going to go hyper, mega, intergalactically nuclear as a result of all this. I think we're so early. Like, you look at Shiba Inu, you look at Dogecoin, the market cap for those two worthless crap coin cryptocurrencies is about $50 billion. 5 times the total market cap of the privacy coin sector. Okay, Monero is at like $5 billion. Dare is at a few hundred million. Same thing with Pirate Chain. Same thing with some of these other currencies. Okay, this is goofy. This is ridiculous. It's going to become a revolutionary act to buy this stuff, I think. And I'm not saying that it should be. Again, please, I'm not, saying to do anything illegal. I'm not trying to entice some kind of revolt. I'm just saying this could be on people's minds. This could be on people's minds, and we are ahead of the curve. So with that said, Monero Matteo, thank you for tuning back into the channel, and I hope that you got some value from this. If you did, feel free to donate a little bit to the channel. Check out our links below. Thank you for Cake Wallet for continuing to sponsor the channel. And check out our social media links below. Telegram, Twitter, Odyssey, especially. We love our friends over on Odyssey. Thank you for joining us over there. And also become a patron. We've got some unique content over there that I'm going to be working more on. I'm sorry for the people over there. I haven't made much unique content to you, but I'm sure you understand that this info is really key. Not many people are talking about this, and so I've been really working hard to get info out to the public to wake them up to the importance of this stuff. And the more people that we wake up, the better for our positions anyway. So hopefully you understand the value of that. So nevertheless, I hope that you continue to support us, and I hope that more people continue to support us on Patreon, because that puts wind in my sails and makes me want to continue to do what we do. So God bless you guys. Stay safe out there. Stay strong, and we'll see you next time.